We are talking now about another group of nutrients, the fats. Fats are present in most foods and they appear in different forms. Fats are present in seafoods, they are present in oil. Well, oil is composed 100% by fats, and also they are present in other animal and also junk foods. Fats are represented by a very large group of molecules. We can try to divide these molecules into two groups, those that are called saturated fats and those that are called unsaturated fats. Well, of course, there are some chemical differences that allow to discriminate between saturated and unsaturated, but from a food point of view, we can say that saturated fat are those fats like lard that are solid at room temperature, while those that are unsaturated, well, they are liquid at room temperature. Animal food contain mainly, but not only, saturated fat. Plant-based food contain mainly, but not only, unsaturated fat. An important aspect of animal foods is that they can also contain some cholesterol, a molecule that belongs to the group of fats. It does not provide energy, but it has very important regulatory functions. It is present in foods, but it is also produced by our body, and it is extremely important to keep it under control, because some cholesterol is needed. Too much cholesterol is a risk for developing cardiovascular diseases. So you already understood that we probably have some fats that are better than others. Usually unsaturated fats are considered better fats than saturated fats because they promote blood lipid profile, they usually reduce blood cholesterol. On the contrary, saturated fat, well, they should be reduced in the diet. Unfortunately, they are present in many foods, all animal foods and most processed foods. They are related to a worse blood lipid profile. They usually induce an increase in bad cholesterol. But something we should be really aware of is represented by a group of fats that are produced during the industrial processing of foods. They are called trans fats, and we should be really sure to reduce them at the minimum, so we should avoid them. Since they are present mainly in processed food, they should be listed on the food label of these processed food. And they are so bad because they are the fat that more than other can negatively affect the blood lipid profile. Another aspect is that being often rich in cholesterol, animal fat is generally considered of lower quality respect to plant-based food fats and also seafoods. Some fats are very important for our health. For example, two unsaturated fats, they are called APA and DHA. They are present mainly in seafoods and they have specific benefits for our organisms. APA performs an anti-inflammatory activity. It has anti-inflammatory properties, but it is also important to keep under control blood cholesterol level. Another unsaturated fatty acid, very important, is DHA. It is needed for an optimal development of nervous system, especially in infants and during the pregnancy. And it's also important to maintain cognitive functions. During aging, it is important to be sure to introduce the correct amount of these fatty acids to maintain our brain and cognitive function. For this reason, it is suggested to eat fish at least 2 times a week. Proteins are the third macronutrient. They are present both in animal and plant foods, such as beans or nuts. Proteins are polymers. They are composed by 20 different amino acids. Amino acids can be considered as the bricks needed to build proteins. And in the body, proteins participate in both structural and regulatory function. But in some cases, they can be utilized as a source of energy, like carbohydrates and lipids. Digesting proteins means to break down food proteins into amino acids, and these amino acids will be absorbed by the body and utilized to create our own proteins. It's important to remember that since the human body does not have any tissue dedicated to store amino acids, it is very important to introduce some amino acids, so some proteins, through the diet every day. Among the 20 amino acids, 9 of them are considered essential. It means that they cannot be created by our cells, but they must come through the diet. How to choose protein sources? So, how to define protein quality? Well, the quality of proteins depends on their ability to meet and satisfy our needs in terms of amino acids, especially essential amino acids. 2 aspects are involved in the definition of protein quality. First, the composition. A protein that does not contain at all 1 or 2 essential amino acids will be, of course, a protein of low or poor quality. But also protein digestibility is an aspect that affects protein quality. If a protein cannot be completely digested by our small intestine, well, of course, its amino acids will not be absorbed correctly. So those proteins that are less digestible, they are also of less quality. So those proteins that lack 1 or more essential amino acids are of poor nutritional quality. And also those proteins with low digestibility are of low nutritional quality. Unfortunately, these 2 aspects belong to vegetable protein. We have to say that plant protein are of poor quality with respect to those coming from animal sources. However, it is possible to combine proteins coming from different plant sources to obtain a perfect amino acid profile in our meal. This table represents a list of foods, plant-based foods like beans, grains, corn, nuts, and vegetables in general, with the essential amino acids that he is lacking into each one of them. For example, beans and grains. Beans are lacking the amino acid methionine. Grains, well, they lack the amino acid lysine. But if we combine in the same meal beans and grains, well, the problem of lacking amino acids is solved. So even if we focus the diet on plant foods, we can obtain a good amino acid profile in our diet. Of course, more details on all of this are available in the material provided together with the units.